And welcome guys back to another video on my channel. Today I'm going to be talking about how I got into NYU Stern. Now I know I've done a video about this before, but I feel like I could improve the video. So welcome to the revised, more updated version of how I got into NYU Stern with a full scholarship, without any background noise and stuff, with the correct hoodie. And of course, louder voice because I wanted to make it a bit cleaner and a better version of the video that I made 3 months earlier. This video is going to be divided into 2 parts, hopefully. The first part is we're going to be talking about GPA and SAT 1 and SAT subject test, and in part 2 we're going to be talking about AP tests, extracurricular activities, volunteer activities, you know, all those honors, and of course the personal essay. So let's get started with part 1. Now before we get into the video, I would like to give you some context about my life and how I, ended up in this situation. I actually went to 2 schools for high school. For grade 9 and 10 I was in a Korean international school in Seoul, and for grade 11 and 12 I was in an American public school, which is where I am right now in America, in Irvine. It was a very big change. You don't really move schools in junior year, yet I have moved not only schools, but we've moved countries and even continents. We crossed the ocean. You just don't do that. Junior year is supposed to be like a very important year, and yet you just made a huge move and you just have to reset. That was kind of a bold move for me, but I managed. Now getting into the video, I want to talk about GPA and stuff. I like to mention here that my GPA wasn't exactly the best. Obviously I didn't get straight A's for all 4 years of my high school life. I actually got 4 B's, 4 B pluses actually. Were sprinkled out throughout the years. My senior year was actually the worst year, so that was kind of surprising how I got into NYU Stern with a really bad senior first semester grade. I know there probably were many straight A students around me, but I would like to emphasize that even with a 3.9 unweighted GPA, even if it's not perfect, you can have the qualities that makes you an NYU Stern accepted student or whatever. Of course there could be other factors, but that was my GPA. It wasn't exactly the best, but it was not the worst. Kind of like in the middle, so don't get discouraged if you don't have like a 4.0 unweighted GPA. Like, it's completely normal. Of course, moving on to the next subject, I want to talk about SAT 1 a bit and, the SAT subject test. But first of all, 1. How many times you take SAT 1 seems to be a common worry or concern for some students, and I would say 3 is like the right amount, which was what I've been told as well. If it's less than 3 and if you're happy with your score, then obviously you should go with it. But if you're not happy with your score on the 3rd try, you could try the 4th and 5th time. But if a school sees that you've tried 5 times and you've made basically no progress and you have to submit all 5 scores or whatever, then you might be better off just with the 3 tests that you took. In my case, I took 3. Not only because was it advice that I heeded, it was because my 3rd was actually the best one, so I didn't need to take any more. My goal score was 1550, and yeah, spoiler alert, I did get over 1550, but I want to track this back to when I first started the SAT. In Korea, while I was in Korea in grade 10, it was kind of a common thing for us to study or start studying SAT. In sophomore year, I bandwagoned and I started studying for, the SAT test during sophomore year, and I think that was one of the best choices I've done, because if it was any later, then it would have coincided with IEPs and college applications, and I think that would have been a bit chaotic. So I took my first SAT in sophomore year, March 2018 in Korea. Got a 1520 total with a 730 reading writing, 790 math split, so it wasn't exactly the best. So there's a joke for Asian students, we have to be so good at math because we can't really be the best at English, so we gotta cover up those flaws in English with our, I guess, impeccable math skills. But since I didn't get a 790, I was at a pretty much of a loss here, because you're kind of expected to get in at 800 when you're Asian, but of course I didn't get that, so I obviously had to try it again. But we moved in July of that year, and so that same year, December of 2018, I retook the SAT in America this time, and to my surprise, I got the exact same score with the exact same sub-score, 730, 790 split with a 1520 total. Not only was that the same and I wasn't able to super score, it was completely useless, my essay score was even lower, so it was just worse overall. Speaking of SAT essays, it was not a pretty big deal for me. For the schools I applied to, they didn't really require essays. I wouldn't really tell you to, spend the extra 50 minutes after your brain's all melted to take the essay if it's not absolutely necessary. On my 3rd try in my junior year, March 2019, I retook the SAT for the final time, and I got the score that I wanted. Over 1550, it was a 1560 total with a 760 and 800 split. I didn't even need to super score, so I didn't even need to take a 4th test. No concerns with super scores. 3rd test was my super score, basically. I didn't take the essay that time, but it didn't really matter because many schools didn't require essays, so I guess it was all good overall. So the thing to take away here was that obviously I wasn't the best at SAT. I didn't get 1600s or 1580 even. Now I've seen students ask me if they need to retake with a 1580, and I looked at them if they were joking, but they weren't. They were dead serious. No, you don't need to do that. I'd say if you get over 1550, you're basically good. If you're over 1500, it might suit your goal schools, but for me, it was 1550, me and for my family, it was 50-50 as well, and I achieved my goal. You don't need to be the best, obviously, if you wanted to go to your dream school. You can have other factors that factor into your getting accepted to your, I guess, dream school. Next, I want to talk about SAT subject tests. I took 4 over sophomore and junior year. In Korea, I took the Math 2C or the level 2 and chemistry, and in America, I took Korean with listening or just Korean and physics. Subject tests are even quicker in Korea. Some people actually prepare during freshman year, but I didn't do that because I thought that'd be way too quick. So I started in sophomore year with Math 2C serving as my debut for subject tests, and I got an 800 because there is a running joke that Koreans or Asians, I guess, in general, are just way too smart that you need to get an 800. If you don't get an 800, you're basically called stupid, which I guess, you know, I kind of disagree with. But anyways, I did get an 800. Chemistry, though, was a way different story. I literally hated chemistry before I took the test, but I ended up getting a good score, 780, which is not bad. It was the result of me studying for 4 to 5 weeks. I went from literally knowing nothing, almost nothing about chemistry and hating the subject to actually learning the subject and actually liking it to the point where I got a 780 on the subject test. So I think that was a pretty good success in my story. Yeah, it was an arduous process that I don't want to repeat again, but it was definitely something. In America, I took Korean and I got a 790 because the supervisor or the proctor who administered the test interrupted me during my listening, so I couldn't rewind or anything. I got one question wrong in listening, and I'm very sure it's probably that question. If it wasn't for that, probably would have had an 800. The next one was physics, which was, you know, I got a 760. It wasn't exactly the best. I studied for a short time for that as well. I wanted to get at least a 770, but I guess I can't be too sad with a 760, although I was kind of disappointed. So here's another thing to take away. You don't need to go all out on your subject test. You don't need to take over 5 or I guess 6 or 7 or just go crazy like that. You don't need all 800s and you can just do well. I would say you need at least 2 or 3 and just as a safety. 2 is good, I guess, but 3 is like safe. And I took 4 because Korean doesn't even count because I am Korean. But yeah, I think the main theme for these 2-part videos is that you don't need to be the best to go to your dream school or to be accepted by the school that you really want to go to. And I'm going to be talking about that more in my second part of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching this part 1 of how I got into NYU Stern with a full scholarship. If you want to see more, obviously you should go watch part 2 that I made. If you've enjoyed, like the video, comment down below what you think, or if you want to share any insightful comments or opinions, and of course subscribe to my channel if you haven't already to catch more of these videos. Thank you guys so much for watching, and go watch part 2.